If you're looking for a backdrop for your video game, then how about Miami? Famous for its golden sand beaches, numerous luxury resorts, with an average of 248 days of sunshine a year, it's the perfect spot for a vacation. It may be a very modern city, but if you know where to look, you'll find beautiful Art Deco and colonial architecture. It's also a city full of culture, with historic ties to Latin America and the Caribbean, earning the city the nickname, the Gateway to the Americas. This makes it an amazing and colourful setting for a video game, and many developers agree with me, as there are so many games out there set in this iconic city. But out of all these virtual Miamis, which video game Miami is the most Miami? To find out, once again I created a bucket list that combined gameplay and things to do in Miami. If you can do the thing in the game will win a point. If you can't, the game won't win a point. It'll also be awarded gold stars, whichever game I decide does that thing the best. These won't be worth any extra points, but will help decide any tiebreakers. Right, let's meet the 10 contestants. Driver. Driver 3. Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The Godfather II. Scarface, The World Is Yours. Battlefield Hardline. The Crew 2. Need for Speed Heat. And Snakey Bus. Okay, soon to be released elephants in the room. Why did I make this video when GTA 6 is less than a year away by the time of publishing this video? Well, GTA 6 is probably going to win every single category, so making this video before its release gives us a moment to celebrate all these older games, as they have their moment to shine. But don't worry, I will be doing a follow-up video as soon as GTA 6 is released, along with any of the games in Miami I may have missed. Please let me know down in the comments if your favourite is missing. Unlike some of my previous videos, I've never had the chance to visit Miami myself, so I won't be able to give you an accurate first-hand account of things, but I've watched a ton of videos and done my own research. So hopefully my analysis will be accurate, but I'd love to hear the opinions from those of you who live there or have been there on vacation. Right, let's begin the challenges. Chase a speedboat. Miami sits in Biscayne Bay and includes 19 man-made and natural islands. With all that beautiful crystal clear azure water, it feels absolutely mandatory that any film or game set here must include a speedboat chase. I can be the chaser or the chasee, but it has to be an in-game objective. We don't get to pilot a boat in Godfather II or Need for Speed Heat. That's all about cars. You can see a few animated boats out in the bay. The only vehicle we get to drive in Snakey Bus is an ever-growing articulated bus, so no boat chases here either. In the original Grand Theft Auto, there are also no boats. Well, except there's one random one that appears in one of the in-game missions, but this isn't on the Vice City map, so it definitely won't count as a pass. In Battlefield Hardline, it looks like we're about to have an epic speedboat chase, but the bad guy just gets away, because for the first time in recorded history, there isn't an empty speedboat of equal power, just sat there with its keys in the ignition, fuel and ready for us to steal and give chase. So another fail. Driver 3 has the right idea. After welcoming British riders some questionable shooting gameplay, we tail the bad guy down to some docks. And wouldn't you know it, there are 2 identical speedboats there. So I'm able to give chase. This speedboat chase isn't particularly interesting. We're just out on perfectly flat open water. But still, that's a pass. Surely a driver won't be able to pass this one. Well, surprisingly it does. In one of the early story missions, a deal goes bad and some bad guys escape in a speedboat. That looks like it's come straight out of Hydro Thunder. We may not be able to pilot a boat ourselves, as we have to give chase in a car, but still this is really impressive for a game this age. Definitely worthy of a pass. The Crew 2 contains many showcase events. These are races where you swap between multiple vehicles, and one in Miami lets us pilot speedboats. Sure, this is more of a race than a chase, but it's still pulse-pounding, aquatic action. When a driver gets a pass, then it's only fair that the Crew 2 gets one as well. If you want a boat chase in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, then hop into any water vessel when the cops are on your tail, and they will happily provide a maritime pursuit. But we can also find speedboat chases in the story missions. A personal favourite of mine has us heading to a yacht to make a collection. Then our pal Lance Vance takes the wheel, and what follows is an on-rail section where we're trying to defend our vessel with a machine gun, taking out multiple pursuers and other speedboats and helicopters. Very action-packed, very cool. But the best game for speedboat chases, in my opinion, has to go to Scarface. There are plenty of them as you play through the game's main story. Sometimes you're the one being hunted down, and other times you're the one who's giving pursuit. My favourite one comes in a midpoint story mission, where things get a little bit James Bond as you pilot a speedboat with mounted machine gun. Very cool and very fun. I also feel like this game has the most detailed waterways, as there are many large ships out in the bay, and small canals we can sail through. So Scarface bags the first gold star. Swim in a resort swimming pool. Miami is famed for its towering skyline, and actually has the 3rd tallest skyline in the USA, just behind New York and Chicago. Many of these high-rise buildings are resorts and hotels, and there are about 550 of them across Miami. And what kind of resort wouldn't be complete without a swimming pool? For those who prefer their water with a little more chlorine and a little less salt, we can be on foot or in a vehicle for this one. but we must enter the water. We can find a few hotels and resorts in the Godfather Part 2, Snakey Bus and Driver, but the tourists are going to be furious as there's not a pool in sight. It took a lot of searching, but I finally found one at Need for Speed Heat. But it was on a raised terrace, surrounded by invisible walls, so I had no way to reach it. While I was taken to the skies in The Crew 2, I spotted multiple swimming pools below. So let's go for a dip. Hang on a second, this isn't water, it's just the ground painted blue. I thought I found a real pool on top of a skyscraper, but yet again it was just a texture and not actual water. That's some very lazy level design, and that's a fail. In GTA we can find many resorts, many of which have very square pools. So in we go. And I drowned. Oh well, that's still a pass. I was technically swimming for a split second. In Driver 3 we can see the iconic towering resorts of North Beach. And one of them has this very large, very inviting looking pool. And there we go, some actual proper swimming. So that's another pass. Even though Tanner can't swim for very long, because he sucks ass. Well, according to Mad Dog in GTA San Andreas anyway, this video is actually unearthing a deep rivalry between Grand Theft Auto and Driver. GTA 3 made fun of Tanner's funny run, Driver 3 made fun of the fact that Tommy from Vice City couldn't swim, and then we had this line in GTA San Andreas.
You suck ass!
Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Vice City definitely has the most variety of pools out of all these games. Not only can we find all these uniquely shaped ones outside mansions, but the resorts and hotels also have many unique swimming pools. There are some overlooking the beach, some on rooftops, some have diving boards, some have tiki bars, and some resorts have multiple pools. Unfortunately we can't swim in them, but paddling definitely counts as a pass. We can also go for a paddle in Scarface. The resorts in this game are a lot more detailed, as you can find them surrounded by sun lounges and bars, and non-player characters having a great time. It was getting hard to choose a gold star for this round. Driver 3 had actual swimming, Vice City had variety, and Scarface had detail. But then I played Battlefield Hardline. In an early story mission, we have a shootout at a resort, which has multiple highly detailed pools that our character can actually have a swim round in, and exchange gunfire. I was terrified holiday makers, cower in fear. So I'm going to have to give Hardline a gold star for this one, as it's the only game that provides detail, variety, and actual swimming. Go to the beach. Miami's South Beach has to be its most famous spot. And as a young teenager, if I was playing a game set in Miami, this would probably be the first place I go to look at the, sand, yes, the sand, definitely nothing else. To pass this one, we need to step out onto the sand, but more importantly, this round is all about the non-player characters. We need to see unique character models of beachgoers, both male and female. Otherwise, what's the point of even having a beach? Okay. The only game that doesn't let us go to the beach is Battlefield Hardline. Godfather II also trips up at the first hurdle. We can find a beach, but unfortunately we can't go onto it. Driver won't let us drive onto the beach either. Snakey Bus includes quite a large beach. The only pedestrians in this game are the ones waiting at the bus stop, but none of them are in their trunks. Driver 3 has a pretty good recreation of South Beach, with its white sand. We can even find a few lifeguard towers. These look more like the ones in LA. The Miami ones are famously very colourful, and have been since the early 90s, so these are completely wrong. But the biggest flaw is the fact that there's absolutely no one on this beach whatsoever. Seriously, it's like the Sahara Desert out here. Strangely, we can find beachgoers in this game's map of Nice, but only women in bikinis, no guys. Well, that's not very gender equality of you, Driver 3. Grand Theft Auto also fails this one. We can head down to the beach, and we see a few parasols and sun loungers, but there are no sunbathers here to enjoy them. This is also the case at Need for Speed Heat, although this game doesn't contain any pedestrians whatsoever, which is very disappointing. It makes the whole city feel a bit dead and abandoned. But they've done a great job at recreating South Beach. They get the watchtowers absolutely perfect, with their bright colours and unique shapes. But still, no beachgoers, no pass. If we head down to the beach in The Crew 2, we can smash our way through multiple parasols and sun loungers. Literally, I could do this for hours. We also see the iconic brightly coloured lifeguard towers, which are also fully smashable. The beaches may be quiet, but if you look long enough, you will find a few NPCs walking around, and some of them have dressed appropriately, ready for a quick dip. Although it has to be said the character models aren't the best. Looks like they've led particularly hard lives, and have seriously seen some stuff. In The World Is Yours, Al Pacino can take a trip down to the beach, where we'll find many beachgoers in their swimwear. The bikini-clad beachgoers have the second most over-the-top walking animations you'll ever see in a video game, and you can fully interact with them, using pickup lines that would definitely get you cancelled in the year of our Lord 2025. The lifeguard towers may not be as colourful, but this is actually historically accurate, as their bright and colourful makeovers weren't complete until the early 90s, a good decade after this game is set. But the best game to go to the beach has to be Vice City, where you'll find the most over-top walking animation in video game history. The beaches here come absolutely full of NPCs, both male and female, of all different body shapes and sizes. So inclusive. We can even find roller skaters heading down the promenade. There's also a beach ball to play with, so that's definitely got to be worthy of a gold star all on its own. Cruise down South Beach at night. Staying next to the beach, but this time at night, we're going to take a look at Ocean Drive on the South Beach waterfront, with its beautiful Art Deco buildings, adorned with brightly coloured neon lights. This is a true Miami icon. So how does it look in our games? Being a linear game gives Battlefield Hardline a major disadvantage, and unfortunately, South Beach is one of the locations we don't get to visit throughout the game's campaign. You can find the waterfront in GTA and in Snakey Bus, but the lack of detail in both games means it can't allow a pass. Also, there's no day-night cycle, so fails on both fronts there. There isn't really a proper South Beach area in the Godfather II, but instead the whole map just feels like it's been based entirely on the South Beach district, as the map is full of beautifully styled Art Deco buildings, many of which come to life at night and glow with vibrant and colourful neon. It may lack a proper South Beach, but it certainly has that South Beach feel, so I'm going to allow a pass for this one. To be fair, you wouldn't want to visit South Beach in this time period anyway, as it was a bit of a crime hotspot and very run down. It wouldn't start to become a proper tourist attraction famed for its nightlife until the mid-1980s. Driver also gets a pass, as it's trying its very best. We can find a few uniquely modelled, vaguely Art Deco buildings when we take a cruise down Ocean Drive, but sadly no neon, because advanced lighting models weren't really a thing when this game came out. The Crew 2 does a slightly better job, but not much, especially considering this game came out almost 20 years later. There isn't really a lot of variety in the buildings when we come to the seafront. There only seems to be a small number of building models they've used here, and that neon glow just isn't there. Very disappointing, but still a pass. The glow is definitely there in Scarface, and it has way more building variety compared to the Crew 2. We can clearly see that Art Deco aesthetic, but it still feels like we need a bit more atmosphere than this. Driver 3 also does a decent job. Again, all those gorgeous Art Deco buildings are uniquely modelled, each with a variety of different coloured neon signage that really pop and stand out against the particularly dark nights in this game. In Need for Speed Heat, nighttime was just a button click away. I never get tired of doing that. Heat's version looks absolutely gorgeous. Again, we see plenty of variety of buildings that really capture the character of this neighbourhood. Just like the previous beach challenge, the lack of NPCs make this whole area feel a little dead, despite how great this whole area looks. But I think Vice City has the best atmosphere out of all these games. They've done a superb job at recreating the seafront, and the bright neon lights spill out onto the road. Everything looks so gorgeous and vibrant, especially in the definitive version. That's right, I just praised the much hated definitive edition. Seriously, can't deny how good it looks, with modern video game lighting, and adding a large variety of 80s themed civilians really bring the place to life. So Vice City gets another gold star. 4 challenges down, let's check it on the scoreboard. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is currently on top, with 4 points and 2 gold stars. Scarface is only just behind, also having 4 points. Only having the 1 gold star mean it just sits in second place. Driver 3 and the Crew 2 are joint third with 3 points apiece, and Snakey Bus is the only game yet to score a point. We've only just started, so it's still all to play for. Race the Metro. Miami has 2 metro systems. The first being Metro Rail, which is a pretty standard elevated railway, and then there's the Metro Mover, a funny little quirky thing, part monorail, part roller coaster, part minibus. You can't find either of these in the games, and race them. The Godfather 2 is set way before the metro system was built. It's disappointing to fail on a technicality, but there's only so much leeway I can give with games with historical settings. Scarface is set a year before the first metro is open to the public. I would have given a pass if you'd seen any sort of construction of the elevated railway lines, but there's none, so that's a fail. The metro should be fully up and running in Vice City, but disappointingly there's details missing from this classic Rockstar game. Thinking about it, it might be the only GTA game that doesn't include any sort of railway. You can find the elevated tracks of the Metro Mover in Need for Speed Heat, but very disappointingly there are no trains running on them. Why even put this in the game then? You're writing a check and not cashing it. So dumb. This is also the case in the Crew 2, but it's even worse in this game as we find a vast network of metro rail tracks. In the original Crew, which we can't play anymore, this system was buzzing with trains moving all over the city. But this public transport system, along with ones in Detroit and Seattle, were all removed with its game sequel, and it really bugs me. You can find freight trains passing through the city, heading to Dodge Island, but these don't count, as they're definitely not part of the metro system. In Snakey Bus we can find an elevated railway with station, and sometimes it looks like you can see a very long metro train driving along them. But that's just my ass, by which I mean it's the rear carriages of my ever-growing bus. During the first chase sequence in Battlefield Hardline, I noticed something. A train! That's it, it's the metro rail! I tried to race it, but you can't get very far. But at the end of the chase, the bad guys crash right underneath the metro. Rather than go arrest them, I decided to have an on-foot race against a train. I lost, but that's still a pass. In the original GTA, we can find elevated railway tracks. Now, in the PlayStation version, no train actually goes along here, due to the system's limitations. But in the PC version, there is. I've recreated it here using state-of-the-art CGI technology. Choo choo! I'm going to allow a pass for this one, just so I don't have to play this game again on PC. Although it has to be said, the train models look nothing like the ones in the real-life Miami. In the original Driver, we get our first look at a recreation of the Metro mover, as it glides along its concrete elevated tracks. And it's really fun to follow it around and race it. It just goes back and forth on these rails and there are no stations. But still, it's a really cool detail and I'm so glad they've included it. They kept the Metro mover for Driver 3 and made the system a lot more detailed, but now it's proper stations and multiple lines. You can even walk up into the stations to watch it go past. Sure, it's a little janky, and unfortunately we can't ride the thing, but still we can have fun racing it. This is definitely the best Metro system out of all these games, and Driver 3 picks up its first gold star. Visit the Everglades. Let's take a quick trip outside the city, to one of Miami's most popular excursions, as we visit this national park that sits just outside the city. This place is massive, full of grassy wetlands and mangrove swamps, not to mention flamingos and alligators. So how many of our games let us visit? We can't leave the city limits in Driver, Driver 3, Vice City, GTA, Godfather II or Snakey Bus. Scarface just about gets a pass for this one, as around our mansion, the terrain gets a little bit swampy with mangroves, and you can pilot a fan boat for extra Floridian points for this one. The map of Need for Speed covers a much bigger area than just Palm City, and includes a large area of countryside. If we head to the south part of the map just outside the city, we can find some wetlands, and a few other areas of ponds and swampland. The area isn't particularly big or overly detailed, but it's clearly based in the Everglades. The coolest feature in this area is the Space Center, which is obviously based on Cape Canaveral, which is nowhere near the Everglades, but still, it is in Florida, and rockets would ever not be awesome. Obviously the map of the Crew 2 includes the whole USA, so it's going to include the Everglades, and it does a really good job. It covers a huge part of Florida in this game, and it's really fun to fly over, drive through, or race a jet boat. We can also spot wildlife, as we can see flamingos, and even alligators. We can also find a few signs of civilization, with small shacks and even fan boats, which unfortunately we can't pilot in the game. But the weirdest thing you can find are these abandoned domed houses. I took a bit of research to find out what the hell these are. They're based on the Cape Romano dome houses, but you won't find these in the Everglades, as they actually sit off the coast nearby. Unfortunately, they no longer exist, being gradually eroded away and destroyed by hurricanes. But I think Battlefield Hardline is the best job of the Everglades. In the mission Alligator Bait, we spent a huge time cruising around the swampy marshlands in a fan boat. The map in this mission is absolutely huge, and highly detailed as we pass through mangrove swamps and flooded grasslands. We pass many interesting features, like crashed planes, an alligator farm, small areas of industry, and some abandoned tourist lookout towers. We also see some wildlife, including herons and alligators.
Yeah, I heard that about him.
This is also the only game on our list that lets you get eaten by an alligator. That's one very chewed up gold star. Cause shipping delays at Dodge Island. If you're heading to Miami, it's hard to miss this giant and busy port that sits right in the middle of Biscayne Bay. To pass this one, all you need to do is head to this man-made island and smash up some barrels or crates, any kind of freight. But it has to be on an island. There's no port in the Snakey Bus, and GTA 1 only has these little cranes for exporting cars, so I definitely can't allow a pass for that. Need for Speed Heat and Vice City do have some very detailed ports. They both sit on the mainland, and you can cause a bit of disruption there, but Dodge Island these are not. Spoiler alert, Dodge Island is an island. It may seem harsh, especially as these ports are well detailed, but they don't reflect the real life uniqueness of the port of Miami, so they both get fails. Port in GodDaddy 2 is on a little island, and was a real pain to get to. You find and unlock it and then you can get over there and cause all sorts of trouble, including smashing these barrels, and even burning down a whole warehouse. So yeah, safe to say I've definitely caused some shipping disruption there. Hardline also includes a couple of missions in the port of Miami. You can even see the giant towering cranes off in the distance. A search for evidence in a warehouse leads to a firefight, where whilst in self-defense, I accidentally shot up a whole bunch of crates. I'm pretty sure this particular warehouse was distributing toy robots, so there's going to be a lot of disappointed kids out there. We can find Dodge Island in its correct location in Driver, although it does lack a lot of detail. It's basically just a bunch of warehouses. There's no cruise ship terminal and there's no cranes. But one thing it does have lots of is crates and barrels. And now lots of angry Temu customers who are wondering what the hell happened to their packages. We can also visit the port in Driver 3, a lot more detailed this time. complete with the cruise ship terminal and the giant cranes. There isn't nearly as much freight as there was in the original Driver, but you can find a few barrels to smash. So that's a pass. Dodge Island and Scarface is in completely the wrong place, as for some reason it now sits on the northern end of Biscayne Bay, rather than down in the south. Either way, they did a fine job of recreating it, complete with the large boxy cranes, numerous warehouses, and even a small rail yard. There are also red barrels everywhere, which in a video game means only one thing. Well, that'll put a small dent in Jeff Bezos' profits, but I think the best Dodge Island has to go to the Crew 2. It's absolutely massive, and also buzzing with activity. There are freight trains coming and going, and even the cranes are animated. I do love an animated crane in a video game, it just makes the place feel so more alive. We can also see a few massive cruise ships, who've moored up at the port terminal. Surprisingly, there wasn't a huge amount of freight to destroy though, but after much searching, I was able to find a few barrels to smash. That would have been so dumb if they had the best recreation of the port of Miami, but no actual freight to smash. That would have been embarrassing. Anyway, first gold star for the Crew 2. Complete a circuit of the MacArthur, Causeway, and Venetian Islands. Round 8 in these challenges is the one where I test the accuracy of a map's layout. To pass this one, we need to drive on something that resembles these two roads. But to get the gold star, it needs to be as accurate as possible. The MacArthur Causeway starts off with a very typical concrete bridge. It then drops down onto an island and becomes a proper causeway. We should see the cruise ship terminal of Dodge Island on our right, and some man-made islands to our left. There is then another concrete bridge, before we turn north and head up West Avenue, which we won't be worrying about too much. We then need to return back where we started, heading through the Venetian Islands, which are a series of 6 man-made islands, first having a bunch of hotels and resorts on it, and the others being suburbs, with large residential houses. We pass through the middle of 3 large elliptical islands, before the road splits into 2 on the 4th, then join back together, and finally heads over a large drawbridge. Snakey Bus has the smallest map, and it doesn't follow any real life layout. It's trying to recreate the feel of Miami, rather than anything realistic, but at least I could find a causeway. The layout of Godfather II's map is literally awful. I mean, what is this mess? It bears absolutely no resemblance at all to real life Miami. I feel like at some point during the game's development they decided to drop the Miami name entirely. And the map is only referred to as Florida in the game, despite the fact the airport being here clearly named Miami International Airport. Vice City and the original GTA may have plenty of islands and bridges, but nothing resembling the Causeway or Venetian Islands. Surprisingly, Battlefield Hardline actually includes the MacArthur Causeway. Well, at least the first bit of it anyway, as we commandeer a heavily armoured truck and smash our way through. But because we can't come back on the Venetian Islands to complete the loop, that's a fail. Scarface also fails this one. We can pass through an area that resembles the Venetian Islands, and they've done a good job at recreating the houses and the bridges. They look very much like you'll see in real life, especially the large drawbridge, but we can only see 2 islands here, so most of them are missing, and if we head south there's nothing, so no MacArthur Causeway, that's a fail. I'm going to allow GTA Vice City a pass, but only just. The most southerly bridge that runs between Viceport and Washington Beach is a very standard concrete bridge. It resembles the shape of the one in real life, but it's way too narrow. In reality it looks more like a highway, but at least we can see some docks off to the right hand side. After passing through Washington Beach, we head onto Starfish Island, which is clearly based off the Venetian Islands. It's covered in palm trees and has some massive mansions on it. A very nice and well-to-do area. We then pass over a humped bridge to get back to where we started. So yeah, good enough for a pass I think, but only just. Need for Speed Heat also barely passes this one. The layout is a bit sketchy, but again we can find ourselves driving over a large concrete bridge, and this one actually dips down onto a proper causeway, although it is very short. The bay in this game really is way too narrow. We can loop back round north of here to a neighbourhood that looks just like the Venetian Islands, although they are missing their elliptical shapes. But the bridges look a lot like the ones you'll see in real life, with very distinctively shaped guardrails, along with all the houses and palm trees. Driver's map may be incredibly basic, only made up of right angles, but it's the first one to get all the roads roughly in the right place. We pass over a concrete bridge and then head along a proper causeway that stretches on for a fair distance. And we can pass through the Venetian Islands, which are clearly labelled on the map, although it's a very shrunk down version as we only see 2 islands. There are also these very random phantom highways that pass over that you can't actually drive onto, which is an odd choice, but still, Driver definitely passes. Driver 3 does a way better job. The MacArthur Causeway is spot on. Drive over a large humped bridge, which is wide and feels like a proper highway, just like the real life version. It then goes down onto a causeway, where we can see cruise ships off to the right and suburbs off to the left. We then head back over a second concrete bridge. We only have 4 Venetian islands, but still the best representation we've seen so far. The roads are probably slightly too wide here, and maybe lack a bit of detail. There certainly should be way more palm trees than this. We pass through the middle of 3 elliptical islands, and even have that bit where the road splits. The final bridge is kind of fudged up though, because it's just another normal highway, rather than the drawbridge we'll see in real life. The Crew 2 does the best job out of all these games. It does a good job of recreating the scale of Biscayne Bay, as it takes a while to drive over the MacArthur Causeway, but it's not actually a causeway in this game, just a giant long concrete highway, but we can clearly see Dodge Island off to our right. Also for the first time we have all the proper Venetian islands in their correct place. They do lack a bit of detail though, it has to be said, and the roads are definitely way too wide here. The bridge at the end is a little bit more like what you'll see in real life, but still not quite. Despite all that, Crew 2 gets the gold star for this one. Right, 8 challenges down, let's quickly check back with the scoreboard. And would you look at that, everything's completely changed. We have 3 games, sound 6 points. But Crew 2 has snuck ahead onto the top spot, with its 2 gold stars. Scarface and Driver 3 are both joint second. Vice City, meanwhile, has slipped down to 4th place, but is still only a point behind the leading 3. Snakey Bus is the only game yet to score a single point, with the Godfather II and Grand Theft Auto slightly above with 2 points. This is definitely the closest challenge I've done so far. Any game in the top 6 still has a chance to win. If you're enjoying this video so far, then please just consider liking, sharing, subscribing and doing all that good stuff. And once you've finished watching this video, I've made other ones based in LA, New York, San Francisco and London. Definitely all worth checking out. But only after you finish watching this one. Land an aircraft at Miami Airport. If you're travelling to Miami, then there's a big chance this is where you'll arrive. And with Miami International Airport sat just outside of downtown, surely it's included in some of our game's maps. But how many of those will let us land an aircraft there? Due to the lack of aerial gameplay, we can straight away roll out games like GTA, Driv 3R, NSFH, and BF Hard. Wait, no, don't call it that ever again. A cool detail in Driver is that you can see planes coming into land, but if you follow them, they're landing into the ocean, which is troubling, so no sign of the airport. In Snakey Bus you can jump, really high, basically turning your articulated bus into an articulated rocket. But there's no airport to land at, disappointingly. I got excited when I was playing Scarface because I found out I could buy a float plane, but unfortunately you don't actually get to fly the thing, and it's just used as a form of fast travel, with no animation or cutscenes or anything cool like that. We can find Miami International Airport in The Godfather II. It's used as a hub to travel between maps. You can drive onto the runway, but you can't fly any of the planes, so that's gonna have to be a fail. If you buy the film studios in Vice City, you can unlock yourself a seaplane, which can fly and land at Escobar International Airport. I love the detail here. We can see planes taking off and landing, and even unique vehicles driving around the tarmac. There's also a very fancy looking airport terminal, which is kind of shaped like a giant clam, but it looks absolutely nothing like the real life Miami Airport. The only thing with any vague resemblance is the control tower, which looks like the old one, the real airport I used to have. In the Crew 2 we can switch to an aircraft anytime we like, and also we can land at Miami International Airport. The look and layout of the terminals, along with the control tower, all match with what you'll see in real life. Well, as we said, the layout of the runways is a little bit weird, and also, unlike the original Crew, you won't see any planes taking off and landing. Only those last 2 games past this one, and the Crew 2 gets the gold star because it's a closer match to the real life airport. That's 3 gold stars in a row. Blimey, that's very unlike you, Crew 2. Ramp off a drawbridge. As we've previously discussed, Miami has a lot of bridges, and some of those are short. And Miami has a lot of boats, and some of those are tall. But what happens when a tall boat meets a short bridge? Well, luckily the real life Miami has loads of drawbridges that open and close, to allow tall boats to pass through. But do any of our games include drawbridges that open? And if there is one, we all know exactly what has to be done. I couldn't ramp up any drawbridges in Driver, GTA, Battlefield Hardline, Vice City, or the Crew 2. I know the Crew 2 has a drawbridge that's stuck open in Chicago, but this video is all about Miami. We'll have to store that one in our minds for a future Chicago episode. We can find drawbridges in The Godfather 2, but because this game wanted to be more annoying than fun, they're used only for evil, and block you from entering certain parts of the map. So you're forced to do the same old repetitive gameplay over and over again until you can finally unlock said areas. But then the drawbridges remain down, so you can't do any wicked jumps. Boo! There are loads of very detailed drawbridges all over the map in Need for Speed Heat, but unfortunately they're all closed. I looked everywhere and thought I'd find at least one stuck open, like this. Whee! That's how you do it. Well done, Scarface, that's our first pass for this challenge. In a really fun mission in Driver 3, a deal goes badly wrong for Tanner, and he needs to get the hell out of Dodge Island as bad guys try and block his escape with vans and trucks. For the grand finale, they attempt to stop our path by opening a drawbridge. Now, I think we're supposed to stop and get out and lower the drawbridge, but because the off-foot gameplay is, the more fun option is just to put your foot down and enter lower orbit. That was a very spectacular pass. Also, you can just come here anytime during free roam and play with the bridge. bridge goes up, bridge goes down, bridge goes up, bridge goes down. And for that, it gets the gold star. Wait, hang on, breaking news. I forgot someone. Snakey Bus. And, oh my god, it has fully animated drawbridges you can ramp off of. Yes, finally, a point for Snakey Bus. Well, that's it, we can just stop the video here, I think. Well, except for we have to go and chill out in Little Havana. Little Havana was originally a safe haven for exiled Cubans, starting a new life in America away from Fidel Castro. These days this neighborhood is a vibrant and colorful destination for tourists, who get to experience the food and culture of not just Cuba, but other islands in the Caribbean and countries from Latin America. But how well is it portrayed in these video games? In this area we should find low-rise buildings, with bright and colourful awnings. There should be stores and restaurants selling mostly Cuban and other Latin America foods and goods, including cigar shops. We'll also be on the lookout for any local landmarks. I had a look at where it should be in Driver, but couldn't find anything remotely Cuban. There just isn't enough detail. Same goes for the original GTA. It has the neighbourhoods Little Bogota and Little Dominica, which are obviously nods to Little Havana. But when we get there isn't anything particularly different or interesting about them, so I can't allow a pass. Snakey Bus also fails this one. In the Godfather Part II, we can visit real Havana, so surely that's worth 2 points. But no, it isn't, as there's no Little Havana. At the very start of Battlefield Hardline, there's much talk of going to get some Cuban food.
I know a decent Cuban place around the corner.
Cuban? Jesus Christ, Nick, you're in Vice now. I knew it worked better than beans and rice.
But when we finally reach outside, it doesn't look like we're in Little Havana at all. I drove around very slowly, reading all the shop signs, looking for any hints that we're in Little Havana, but found none. So that's a fail. Driver 3 has Little Havana clearly marked on its map. So off I went, and I found a few small stores, some with signs in English and others in Spanish, including the so-called Farmacia. Must be some kind of farm shop. But then I found something that definitely confirmed we were in Little Havana. No, not the Ministerio Menazes Church on 8th Street, found in Little Havana, Miami, Florida. Behold, a cigar shop! A very common sight in Little Havana. So yeah, we're definitely in Little Havana. Grand Theft VC does a much better job. Unlike the original game, it doesn't go for clever alternate names, and full on just calls the area Little Havana. And there you can find plenty of Latin American shops and restaurants. They're still very much in the neighborhood's immigrant era, so you wouldn't expect to find all the bright and colourful murals and other tourist attractions. So it's a solid and historically accurate representation. And we get to hang out with Danny Trejo here. Wait, is he Cuban? Little Havana also plays an important role in Scarface, as it's the neighborhood we start off in and have to try and take over. And just like Vice City, we can find plenty of stores and shops with Spanish signage, including a cigar shop. And most importantly of all, Pedro's Pawn Shop. I should give this game a gold star purely for its epic name choice, but there's still 2 more games to go. In The Crew 2, I drove around the part of the map where Little Havana should be, looking for some sort of sign that was in the right place. Yeah, that'll do it. And I have to say, I was really surprised. There's actually a surprising large amount of detail here, especially for this game, which is very hit and miss with its detailing. I found plenty of Cuban and Latin American themed stores, including cigar shops, of course, and a store that simply reads Producto Centro Americano, which I feel like is a placeholder, which the level designer is meant to come back to and give a proper name, but then probably got distracted, making the Empire State Building look less like the Empire State Building or something. I also found a nice little model of the Tower Theatre, which is an Art Deco cinema you'll find inside Little Havana. And plus we can drive down this highly decorative street, which you'll find in the well-known Calle Ocho of Little Havana. And look, there's Ministerio's church again. But out of all these games, the best version of Little Havana isn't actually Little Havana. It's Little Santiago, which you'll find in Need for Speed Heat. They put so much care and attention into recreating this colourful and vibrant neighbourhood. There's murals and artwork everywhere, as well as Latin America themed stores and restaurants, and even a version of the Tower Theatre again, which looks particularly nice in this game. There's lots of little nods and details to the real life Little Havana, and this area looks pretty spot on from what I saw in various videos I watched. So well done Need for Speed Heat, you get yourself a gold star. Survive a hurricane. Miami may be famed for its sunny weather, but occasionally, Mother Nature likes to remind everyone who's in charge, and throws a tropical storm at this city. So do any of our games show this extreme weather event? We're not just talking a thunderstorm or a little rain. I want to see high winds, and maybe even some destruction. But it's always sunny in GTA, Godfather Part II, and Snakey Bus. Although in Snakey Bus you do cause as much damage as a hurricane, especially if you spin yourself around into a massive cyclone. You can experience thunderstorms in Scarface, Driver, Crew 2 and Driver 3, but the winds don't really get that strong. I mean, just look at these palm trees. In Need for Speed Heat, it rains a lot, and it looks pretty epic when it does. You get these massive storm fronts rolling through. But as cool as all this looks with the rain off in the distance, It just doesn't get windy enough. If these palm trees had been swaying just a little bit more, I would have given it a pass. In Vice City, there are reports of a hurricane, so they've closed the bridges, blocking off half the map.
Have been closed because of a severe weather warning. Meteorologists are tracking Hurricane Hermione, which
Progress through the story, and the bridges will eventually open again. But, where was the hurricane? I didn't see one. It must have been extremely localized, or missed the city entirely. So that's a fail. So only one game passes this one, which is Battlefield Hardline. Officer Mendoza won't let a stupid thing like the weather, or some stupid little signs stop him from his investigation. Crime doesn't take a day off, and neither do his henchmen guarding a mall. Things start to get very destructive. A whole glass dome shatters inside the mall. And later we're dodging debris, as the hurricanes just start sucking random letters at us. A whole tower even collapses, and it's a very cool level. Obviously, as is the only game to pass, it gets the gold star by default. Okay, with 3 challenges left, let's quickly go back to the scoreboard one last time. This is turning out to be the closest episode yet. The top 3 games all have 8 points, but with its 3 gold stars, The Crew 2 is on top. Driver 3 is second, and Scarface is third. We still can't roll out Vice City though, it's just behind, with 7 points. Snakey Bus finally got a point, but it's still in last place. The Godfather Part 2 and Grand Theft Auto both sat on 2. Right, here we go, the last 3 challenges. Run the gauntlet down Ocean Court. Can an alleyway be iconic? Maybe. Okay, hear me out on this one. Hopefully this isn't just a random me thing and it's something loads of gamers out there do. The second thing I always did after visiting the beach to look at the sand was head to a specific alleyway in South Beach, which ran alongside Ocean Drive. It was always fun bumming along at high speed, trying to dodge the cross traffic. And in this little alleyway, there's drainage ditch in the middle kept on appearing in video games, and it's something I always did. So, how many of these games include this special alleyway? Well, obviously Driver, because that's what kind of sparked my obsession with this alleyway. It's called Ocean Court, by the way, which I only just found out. But we won't find it, or a parallel version of it, in Snakey Bus, Hardline, GTA, or Godfather II. The shortest version of it exists in Scarface, as it only runs for 1 block. But it might just be the most dangerous, as it's full of armed gang members who will open fire on you. So yeah, definitely running the gauntlet, that's a pass. In The Crew 2, I literally did a speedrun of this challenge, taking a dragster down there. It runs for a few blocks, but it's way too wide, and there isn't enough alley clutter for my liking. We can find it in Vice City, and it's a real challenge to drive through this one. It's very narrow, and it isn't perfectly straight, so you're going to have to do a little bit of maneuvering to make this one. We can also find a very HD version of it in Need for Speed Heat. Just look how grimy and dingy it looks. Beautiful. But the first one to drive down has to be in Driv 3R. It's perfectly straight, runs for multiple blocks, and is absolutely full of stuff to smash through. Bins, crates, barrels. Just watch that street furniture go flying. You do have to be careful though, traffic could be around any corner. That's a gold star. Go clubbing, golfing and shopping. Miami is very much a city of leisure, and to be honest, I couldn't decide which of these 3 things to choose for a challenge. So, why not all 3? Originally I was going to allow a pass if you could do 1 out of these 3 things, but seeing how the competition is so close, I'll need to complete 2 out of these 3 things to pass. To pass the clubbing part, you have to go inside a club or a bar. To pass golfing, you just need to be able to go onto a golf course. And to pass shopping, you have to be able to go into a mall. There's kind of a mall-looking thing in Snakey Bus with this glass awning, but no clubs, golf, or golf clubs. Surprisingly, this is all the same story in The Crew 2. There are a few bits that kind of look a bit like malls, but no golf courses, which I was really surprised at. In Driver, we can find a recreation of the real-life mall called Coco Walk, but as there's no golf courses or clubs, it gets a fail. As mentioned in a previous round, we get to go through a mall in Battlefield Hardline, but because we don't get to go to a club or a golf course, that's a fail again. There are a couple of clubs we can go to in The Godfather II. These are rackets we need to take over, but there aren't any more rackets or golf rackets, so fails all around so far. Need for Speed Heat has a couple of golf courses you can drive onto, and they're quite well detailed. And also we can drive through this area, which is obviously based on the Bayside Marketplace, which is a shopping mall. And just outside of town, we can find this huge abandoned mall. So that's 2 leisure activities done and a pass. Scarface also recreates the Bayside Marketplace. And there are a couple of clubs we can go into, and later take over as our own. They are highly detailed and full of partygoers. It's extremely 80s in here, and that's a pass. But can anyone score all 3 on this round? First up we have Driver 3. In an early story mission we get to shoot up this bar, to try and impress a crime gang. Very detailed and very shootable. That's a pass in the nightlife. On the northern side of the map we can also find this very large, but slightly under-detailed golf course. But still, that's a pass on that one too. As for shopping, well, we get an extremely fun pass, as we can find a huge mall on the south part of the map, which is fully drive-throughable, and is one of my favourite things to do on this entire map. Vice City allows us to do all three of these activities as well. There's a very large and extremely detailed mall we can pass through. It's full of shops, food kiosks, fully functional escalators, and even a sports car you can nick and drive around the mall. There's a highly detailed golf course, complete with unique golfer NPCs and golf buggies driving around. I can even choose from a couple of clubs. There's the very seedy Pole Position and the Malibu Club, full of people getting their groove on and having a good time. And look, even the village people are here. As these are more detailed than the ones you'll find in Driver 3, Vice City gets the gold star. Sightseeing Lightning Round. As is tradition in this series, we like to end on the Sightseeing Lightning Round. You need to find 4 out of these 5 famous landmarks. The Freedom Tower, Vizcaya Museum and Gardens, the Hard Rock Cafe at Bayside Marketplace, Dade County Courthouse, and Portofino Tower. Being set in the 1950s means that Godfather Part II predates Portofino Tower and the Bayside Marketplace. When this sort of thing happens, like my previous episode set in New York, I'll head to where the landmark should be and give it a pass if what's in its place matches what should have been there in that particular time period. But because the layout of Miami in this game is so bad, I wouldn't even know where to begin. And besides, all of the landmarks from this time period are missing. So that's a solid fail. Although GTA's London expansion included multiple famous landmarks on the map, its version of Vice City fails to deliver any landmarks. Snakey Bus is also missing any landmarks. This game was obviously just going for that Miami vibe and aesthetic, rather than trying to recreate a layout or any landmarks that match real life Miami. Battlefield Hardline also doesn't feature any of these landmarks. I would have thought at least one would show up, but no. Scarface The World Is Yours delivers us our first couple of landmarks. But there's something a little strange going on with the first one. This game was set in 1983, and here is the Bayside Marketplace, which was opened in 1987, making its appearance in this game anachronistic, which is a word I've always wanted to use in one of these videos. The main mall might be here, but the cafe that would later on become the Hard Rock Cafe doesn't exist. Instead, we got a fictional lighthouse. We can see a building off in the skyline that might be the Dade County Courthouse. And if you squint really hard, Tony's mansion kind of looks a bit like the one of Vizcaya. It even has its own maze garden. But that's it for landmarks, so that's a fail. Another surprising fail is Vice City. This game was always going more for the vibe of Miami rather than the actual real look of it. The mansion, which later on becomes a safe house, definitely draws inspiration from the one of Vizcaya. It even has a maze garden. It's funny, I almost had a round where you'd have to navigate the maze in the Vizcaya Gardens. Then I found out there isn't actually a maze there at all, so it would have been a dumb challenge. Anyway, moving on. The only other landmark we can find are 2 towers that vaguely resemble the Portofino Tower, despite the fact that that thing was built in the mid-90s. So it definitely shouldn't be here. So yet another fail. The way things were going, I didn't have much hope for Need for Speed Heat. Its maps, I'm going to go for the feel of an area rather than trying to recreate it. And yet, whilst driving around, I found a very nice version of the old newspaper headquarters that is currently a contemporary arts museum known as the Freedom Tower. And it's a very nice looking model. And right next door is the Dade County Courthouse. I mean, it's in the wrong place and looks way too modern, but it's a high-rise building topped with a pyramid, and it draws inspiration from the DCC. Right around the corner from these two, we can find Bayside Market, and a cafe that vaguely resembles the Hard Rock Cafe. It's missing the giant guitar that sits on the roof, that's probably for trademark reasons. Not only that, we head over to the other side of the bay, we can find a very gorgeous recreation of the Portofino Tower. It's even its correct modern day colours. The only landmark missing is the Vizcaya Gardens. I didn't have much faith in the Crew 2 passing this one either, but we can find models of the Freedom Tower, Portofino Tower, Dade County Courthouse, and our first real recreation of the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens. So it wasn't a drug lord's house after all, and it was originally the home of businessman James Deering. It even includes the little man-made island adorned with statues, like you'll see in real life. The Bayside Marketplace is missing from this map, but still, that's 4 out of 5. The original driver has loads of Miami's landmarks, but does it contain the ones we need? Freedom Tower? Check. The DCC? Check. A very crude recreation of Portofino Tower? Check. And an even cruder take on the Bayside Marketplace, complete with the Hard Rock Cafe and giant guitar. The only one missing is Vizcaya. Can Driver 3 get all 5 and claim the gold star? In their correct places we can find the Freedom Tower, Portofino Tower, which absolutely dominates the area of the map it's in, Dade County Courthouse, and the Vizcaya Gardens, which at first I thought was locked away behind a gate, but you can actually open it and go have a proper look round. Oh look, another maze that doesn't actually exist. But then last but not least we have the giant guitar of the Hard Rock Cafe. 5 out of 5. Well done Driver 3. You get the gold star for the final round. Okay, moment of truth. Who's won this thing? In last place with just 1 point is Snakey Bus. Should I have even bothered to include this game on this list? Most definitely. It's so fun to play. It probably delayed the production of this video by a couple of days, because I literally couldn't stop playing it. The next 2 games are tied, with Grand Theft Auto and The Godfather II, both with 2 points. I'm not surprised to see the original GTA down here, but The Godfather II is the game I'm most disappointed in. The original did a great job at recreating New York and its landmarks, but the map in this game looks absolutely nothing like the real-life Miami, and is rubbish. Up next I have Battlefield Hardline with 5 points. Not a bad score at all for a linear game. Just above that is Driver, with 7 points. I'm so proud to see a game this old do so well. Despite coming out 3 console generations later, Need for Speed Heat also picks up 7 points. But with a gold star, it creeps just above Driver. I'm quite surprised this game did so well. Normally when Need for Speed makes a map, they normally try and capture the feel of a city, rather than trying to remake its landmarks and layout. But they did a really good job here. Just missing out on the top 3 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Some of you probably assumed this game was going to win the whole thing. It's a great game and probably just the best at recreating the atmosphere of Miami. But when it comes to the fine details, of things like layout and landmarks, it doesn't do as well as other games on our list. In third place we have Scarface, The World Is Yours. I'd never actually played this game before until making this video, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. Its recreation of Miami may be a little small and under-detailed, but also did something right. In second place we have The Crew 2, matching Scarface with 10 points, but with those 3 gold stars, means it collects the silver medal. This might just be the best recreation of a city in The Crew 2, and I was surprised about how much detail I found in this game. Which means in the top spot, would you believe it, we have Driver 3, picking up 11 points and 4 gold stars. This was such a close challenge, and I'm really surprised Driver 3 ended up on top. The gameplay might be slightly janky, but it's done a great job at recreating this city. It gets a lot of the detailing, landmarks and layout absolutely spot on, which makes it a worthy winner. So there we have it. Driver 3 is the best Miami, and it probably always will be. Yep, nothing's going to come along and wipe it off the top spot. No, that would be very surprising. So anyway, obviously like I said, I'll do a follow-up when a certain game comes out, so make sure you can subscribe so you don't miss that. And of course, I'll be doing episodes based in other cities before then. Where should I head to next? I'm Foolish Pedro, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next city.